Let's see. Well, I'm really happy to be here today. Oh, is that loud? Kidding. I actually grew up in Riverside, and I graduated from Rancho Verde High School in 1995, and now I'm a visual effects artist, and I'd like to show you a little video to show you what that is. So the shots that you see here are all shots that I've finished. I'm certainly not responsible for all the work in these shots, but I finished them. And what that means is that when they left my hands, this is what they look like, and this is what they look like when you'd see them in the movie screen. Now, I certainly can't take credit for everything because these are very much a team effort. All of them are a team effort, some more than others. Shots like this, which are entirely CG, there's a whole team of people who can model environments, which is a lot like a sculpting program in the computer, people who texture them, which gives them colors and surfaces. This is a great example of a team effort type of shot. So many people are involved. There's effects with the fog, there's animation, all of those are different jobs, and it's my job to take all of those things together and put them together to make them look like they live in the same world or the same environment. Now this would be an example of something that's more, like less of a team effort and more something just I would do, where you have your footage, you pull the blue screens, you take other footage of the environments, the oceans, and put those all together to make them look like one shot. So I'm going to stop this now because it kind of goes on for a while. And if you'd like, you can certainly, I can give out my website later and you guys can check out more if you're interested. I mentioned the team effort part. That's really like my favorite part of the job is just this creative collaboration that happens with some of the smartest people I've ever met. It's funny because you can look at a lot of this and think of it as just art, but often the most creative part of my job is the problem solving. Because in visual effects, everything is a problem. Nothing goes smoothly, and every shot has its own unique problems. And a lot of times a problem can come up and it'll be met with the way you would normally meet a problem, which is like, oh, this sucks, so like, what am I gonna do with this? And then, but when you're in a room with creative people, that problem quickly turns into a puzzle that's met with enthusiasm. So you'll have, you'll have this problem come up and then somebody will quickly be like, oh, but what you could do is this. And then somebody else will be like, oh yeah, that's okay, but this works better. And then it'll go back and forth like that. And that's the creative process that I really love to do. I won't spend a whole lot of time talking about what I do because I want to get to like another point. But I would like to give you a little bit of a backstory. Since you guys are all in high school and getting ready to graduate, I'd like to share with you how that time was for me and how this almost didn't happen for me. When I was in 4th grade is when I first started drawing and getting acknowledgement from my peers of having somewhat of a talent. And I had a 6th grade teacher who I'm so grateful for to this day because she gave me this assignment. When she found out that I did some drawing, she gave me this assignment where everybody else was going to do this book report, and it was my job to do a mural on the wall. And I'm this little 6th grade kid. She probably would have gotten in trouble for this today, but I'm like standing on this bookshelf, like on the very edge, and I'm trying to draw this thing on the wall, and I'm getting the proportions completely wrong because, I'm this close to the wall. So that was a problem, and what I decided to do was get an overhead projector. I don't know, maybe if they even still use these anymore, maybe the technology is better, but it's basically just a light box. You draw on it with transparency, it shines through, goes through a lens, bounces off a mirror, and then it's on the wall much bigger. So what I did was I sketched this thing out with the proportions that I wanted, put it on there, projected it on the wall. Now I could climb back up on the ledge and draw this thing. And you know, you look out while I was up there. I mean, it was a mural, so it took several days to do. And I'd look out, you know, at the students doing their book reports, and it dawned on me that, man, if I can be good at something like this, I could totally trick people into never making me do work. It was a great revelation in my life. But it's funny because here I was trying to get out of work, but the little problem with the light box and the proportion, I probably use more deductive reasoning and problem solving skills than I did through all my like K through 12 stuff. And after that, like in high school, there was a school newspaper, and I convinced the teacher, I was like, look, you can't have a school newspaper if you're not gonna have artwork in the paper. So then again, here I'm doing this stuff, and I'm like, I just turned this class. I can sit in class and draw all day. Like, that's ridiculous. And so again, it was these things, but I kept seeing it as almost like this thing I was tricking people into letting me do. And I didn't see it as a real job. So when it came time to graduate high school, I did okay in my classes, but I really didn't know what I wanted to do in life. I knew I loved creative stuff and I loved being an artist, but it just never seemed like a real job to me. So from there, without anything else, my parents were broke, so I went to college. I went to the Air Force because I didn't have money for college, and said, well, I can, find something that I'll fall back on and see how that all works out. Maybe I'll get money for college. So I went there and I hated it. All respect to people who choose that life, like it's a tremendous dedication and sacrifice, but it wasn't for me. So I just realized, like, man, life sucks if you're in a job that you hate. So I was like, well, I'm never going to be happy in life unless I just do it. But I never saw it as, again, I had this fear that it wasn't a real job. So when I went to college, I said, the only way I can turn this into a job and be successful and like so that I can like make money and still do something I want to do is if I'm better than everybody else. And I certainly was not better than everyone else, but I had that mentality going into it. So I always strived for that, and that made me good enough to where I could later on get work. Now I'm telling you guys all this because, well, two reasons. One, I really wish somebody would have told me this when I was in high school. I might have done things differently. And the other reason I'm telling you this is to get to this broader point about education. Because I think that education, is specifically like K through 12 education, like it helped me, but I feel like it helped me in all the ways it wasn't designed to. So in other words, like the teacher who let me draw that mural, that was like a big revelation for me. And that was like real problem solving skills, and problem solving skills that resulted to a practical application of something that I wanted to do, which was unlike all my other classes. And the same with the school newspaper. I mean, they had no intention of the graphics, and I kind of like exploited this opportunity, but there was only one slot for the entire school. So my point with all this is, I think that as a society, and I think when it comes to education specifically, we should really place a high value on education. And I gotta say, I'm really happy to see this teen vision stuff that's that you guys are doing, and the students that are operating the cameras, I mean, that's awesome. And that didn't exist when I was in school. And even then, I'm sure that those programs are kind of like few and far between, but it's great. And I bet you, if you were to talk to those students, they would tell you that they've done more problem-solving skills and more having to sit there and think of solutions to achieve a higher goal than they probably have in any of their other classes. Creativity kind of is this different thing that happens in your brain than your typical just memorization and math and so on. If you look back through history, all through history, it's all been marked by these incredibly creative people, from the person who made the first tool to the repurposing of fire, the printing press, Einstein and Steve Jobs. You know, all these people, you could label them as scientists and mathematicians and entrepreneurs, but they were all incredibly creative people. And it's funny to me that we revere these people who were incredibly creative, but when it comes to education, we seem to not put such a high priority on it. I kind of think that has a lot to do with standardized tests. You can't measure creativity very well with, you know, fill in these bubbles and find out how creative somebody is. So it doesn't affect the ranking systems of schools, and maybe that's why it's not a priority. I don't really know. But I think we need to put a bigger priority on it. And I hate to put it so bluntly, but you know, like math and science and all those things are great tools, but they are worthless without a mind to see those as tools and without a mind that's going to look at those as tools. To me, it's a lot like giving somebody a toolbox with a hammer and wrenches and all that kind of stuff. Like, that's all great. Somebody gives you this toolbox and you're left there like, okay, well, what am I going to do with this? You want me to think about building something? Those are great tools and they're important, but we need to like nurture the creative mind to like repurpose those tools and put those to a higher use. And like as I was saying before, like that's been so important throughout human history and human evolution, but I think it's going to be that much more important in the future, because all those things, math and science, like besides math, everything's memory, right? And I gotta tell you, computers can do memory and math way better than you can. So what's gonna separate you from the job, like the jobs that computers take in the future, is gonna be that creativity and that creative mind. And it's also incredibly valuable. I've talked to employers, and even though I'm technically an artist, you talk to other employers and other things that aren't considered artistic at all, and they always value an employee that thinks creatively, someone who thinks outside the box, and someone who says, you know, maybe we can do things differently. Like, you guys have been doing this forever and it works, but things have changed and this would be more efficient, or we could get a better result. So creativity is something that will enrich our life, it'll enrich our civilization. So my brother, he runs a pool tile cleaning business, for example. And you can probably think of that and say, that's probably the most uncreative thing I've ever heard of. Well, you can be further from the truth. He's constantly having to think, okay, how can I market to my customers? How can I give them a better product? How can I lower costs, giving them a better price, giving me a better profit? You know, that's how the creative mind works. And I'm being a little bit liberal with how I'm using the word creativity, but that's the creative process. So the thing I want to end with today is that, like, for the educators in the room, always be trying to find a way to get your students creatively involved. And we can teach creativity and we can nurture creativity. Not everything has to be about right and wrong answers. Sometimes it's about this answer and this broad spectrum of answers. They all have drawbacks, they all have pluses. There's not necessarily a right and a wrong answer. And then for those of you graduating, going on to the rest of your life, stay creative. This is something that we all have inside of us, and don't let it die, because it will enrich your life in more ways than you can imagine. I mean, when you're in your job, and even if you're in like a mundane job and they don't want to listen to you, just like that thinking of like, how can I do this better? How can I make my job more enjoyable for myself? How can I make it more profitable to my employee? How can we do things more efficiently? It'll enrich your personal life as well. My wife probably never loves me more than when I find some ridiculous creative way to show her how I feel about her. Creativity is this amazing thing. It's something that's always been there for us. It's something that we're going to need even more of in the future. And that's what I want to say. Thanks.